So this is gonna be a new series that is gonna focus on just like solo Omega, and this is just kind of how I've been playing for the past like 2 years or so. I'm not really big on other corporations, large corporations, or alliances or anything like that. I usually just play by myself and everything. But I'll be basically this series is basically going to show you kind of like the day to day or like what I normally do as far as like ratting or just ISK generation and things like that. But kind of just to start things off, I'm just gonna kind of like we're gonna define this series a little bit. So like you normally like the way I define solo is essentially just me, right? Solo heartbeat, and this allows me to actually kind of like because as I'm like mining or anything like that, I'll have mining alts or I'll have Sino alts and things like that. But really, like when I look at things in terms of like solo PVE, I mean that I'm just basically not playing with anybody but myself. So for the most part, I have the main, and she's sitting at around 92 million SP right now. And main that's she's just like the jack of all trades that I have for pretty much everything. But for the most part, I do mostly null um, combat sites or combat anomalies, and then she's also PI trained, Rourke trained, and then she's also my jump freighter pilot, and basically everything. Right? She just has all the things. Now, my main alt is essentially she used to be up to like 18 million, but I think I've been kind of working her up. I juiced her out. I juiced all her skill points out whenever I took a hiatus, and so she's kind of on her way back up. She used to be my backup Orca pilot. She's at about 10 million SP right now, and her main purpose in life is basically just Sino, right? This allows me to move things like my Phoenix or the Jump Raider or the Rorqual or Widow or just whatever. That's her main purpose. She's also PI trained and also working on finishing her mining alt training. And essentially, I'll eventually get her to probably back to an Orca, and I might actually put her in like high sec or something to do like some Veldspar, which I'll probably end up eventually bringing out to Null to do some manufacturing and everything like that. And then I want to also eventually get her into um, a Rourke to be a secondary Rourke, just so I don't have to necessarily lock down my main, because my main's going to probably end up sitting in a Leviathan at some point when I start working towards getting that, which that'll be probably like next year's goal is just to actually go ahead and save up and drop that 150 plus billion for the Leviathan and kind of just have that hang out in a keep star or whatever. So essentially, this series is going to be covering everything I do as far as ratting, mining, and PI, and it's going to cover things in null as well as high sec. I don't really do a whole lot in low sec, but if I do like gas or whatever, it might be like low sec gas stuff for the most part. But I usually stay out of low sec as it goes. Um, this series will probably end up being actually a lot different than like my alpha project video, which was more like a summary based episodes. These are going to be a little bit more long form that will allow everything to be kind of seen unedited and kind of like just seen like from beginning to end, and I'll just kind of run commentary on things like that. So today is like the first day that I've been kind of back in null. Whenever I went on hiatus, I kind of just pulled everything back, all my alts and everything back to Jita, and was just doing a lot of stuff in high sec, sold a bunch of assets. So as you can see here, I'm sitting in a Tengu right now. It's my kind of about daily driver. It allows me to do like have interdiction nullification and covert ops, and I can do a lot of traveling with it. I usually run up to ports with this and selective combat anomalies, and then I can also just do scanning for hacking sites or relic sites with this as well. if I end up getting into the point where I'm going to be doing a lot of relic sites, then I'll bring out the buzzard or something that's a little bit more purposed built for that kind of activity. And also, I kind of tend to, if I do end up, kind of like reinvesting in like null, I'll probably bring out the golem. The golem is essentially what I like to rat in the most, and I'll just basically spam hubs and sanctums and do the higher end combat sites with that. So for this video, I'm just going to kind of do some rally points with this. I might do a port or two, and just kind of run commentary and let you guys know kind of like, experience how I kind of play solo Eve Omega. So one thing I'll do is before we head out or anything like that, I'm going to kind of go over what this fit kind of looks like. So you can kind of like, I'll put this fit. I have another video over this fit as well. It might be a little bit different than the ones I posted before, but this will allow you to kind of, if you want to kind of follow along with this series, kind of like with the Alpha Project. And I'll kind of share my fits as we start exploring more content. But I'm using the Tengu, like I said, and then I'm using the chassis optimization, and then the accelerated injection bay, and the Covert reconfig, and then also the augmented Graviton reactor. And then for the rigs, I'm using medium Ancillary router 2s, and then I'm using one medium core defense field extender 2 for the purpose of just doing like rally points and ports. I run the Covert Ops Cloak while I'm doing this as well, just because like if I finish a site and I'm doing something like product discovery, or I'm like, doing something off screen, or, something that's, I don't necessarily want to warp back to like station or whatever. I'll just like align to station or align to the next, combat site, and then just, cloak up. And that's what I usually do too, is if I, have, I'll like save points out, and I'll just kind of warp to a save point and cloak up if there's like a nuke that comes in the system or whatever the case may be. And I'm running all 6 of the heavy assault missile launcher 2s, and I'm running Scourge Rage assault missiles on these. I prefer these. I'm also implanted on this as well, so my rate of fire is really good. For the mid slots, I run a Afterburner, which gets me about, just going to simulate this. This gives me up to 1,000 meters a second, and then I have the medium shield booster, and this is also boosted amp 2, and then just normal shield hardener, and then a large shield extender 2, and then just a cap recharger 2. I don't really go bling on this because the cost of this is around 400. I prefer to, like, my daily drivers to not necessarily be blinged out, so there's a little bit less of a gut punch when if I lose something. In the lows, just damage control 2 and ballistic control systems in there. As far as cargo, I usually carry about 30,000 rounds with me. That's usually good enough for like a few days, depending on how far or how much I'm like really pushing. Rally points, they usually split targets quite a bit, so I'll like target up all 6, and then I'll put 1 launcher on each, so I don't like overshoot on certain things. Rally points are a little bit better for this ship, just because with battleships you kind of have to like throw all 6 launchers on those to kind of get them out of the way, and it's kind of just my strategy with that. As far as like, there's secondary gear pieces I kind of bring out with this as well. So I also have a interdiction and nullifier, which just kind of helps make this a little bit better. And I usually keep these in station, so I'm not carrying them around. And then I have the scanning stuff, because I primarily do relic sites just because they're a little bit better revenue with the blue salvage you get from that stuff, and then obviously like the combat and Scissors Core probe scanners. But since I know I'm only doing combat sites, I usually like just kind of focus on either doing scanning for one day or for a few hours, and then I'll focus on like combat sites, which is why I just don't equip those extra modules if I don't have to. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna run like a rally point. Like I said, this is gonna allow you to kind of see a normal kind of rotation through it. Just try to like get a little bit more bounties, and kind of working on the career plan. Getting career points and stuff like that, just as like a completionist kind of situation. So Enforcer is pretty much done. A lot of what I'll be doing this week probably is going to be doing exploration stuff, but kind of show you this Tengu in action. So like I said, I normally do have a safe point or whatever in system. This allows me just kind of like align to it, and then just kind of cloak out. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm just basically just waiting. I got out here, I was doing some product discovery, and then I just kind of align, and I don't necessarily like spamming combat sites back to back. It gets a little tedious. It also kind of depends on what activity is going on in intel. If there's kind of a lot of traffic moving around, there's a lot of fleets moving around, then I kind of just, hang out and do that. Product discovery is one of those things that I try to get done every day because it's not much, but about 20 mil in the wallet. And I can do it kind of in between other activities and things like that. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get this rally point out of the way. I usually just warp 0. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to land right on top of some dudes, which is fine. They'll drop my cloak and then I'll get the hardener turned on and I just start, sig tanking. Yeah, it's going to put me right at it. So normally I just pick a structure like this and then I'll just orbit it. This allows me to kind of like orbit constantly while I'm running the site and kind of sig tank a little bit. So once I'm starting up, I'm just going to go ahead and turn on the Afterburner to kind of get in that rotation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go 3 and 3 on these guns because I want to get those down pretty quick. I usually don't run the shield booster until I absolutely need to. Actually, those are out of range. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop all these targets. And we'll go and take care of everything that's within 25. That's my range right now. These little destroyers are going to go down really, really quick. So I'll usually just put 1 launcher on each. The frigates can be a little annoying too because they'll some of them will warp disrupt and things like that. Get the other guy up. And then, like I said, I don't run the booster all the time. If I get somewhere near 50, then I'll put it on. But we're on the front side of that. I'm going to have to move closer to those guns and just prioritize those down before the wave is over. Which I'm going to do now. As you can see, I'm going to go over here and kind of change my orbit to that bunker over there. And that'll allow me to kind of just get those down. I'm just going to keep the 2 launchers on them. They should die before I get out of range on it. Like I said, I don't normally get in a hurry when I'm running these. It's more or less just kind of like a pastime. It's something I enjoy doing. I don't really worry too much about flexing this account. It's already pretty easy to do so. Alright, I'm going to go 3. We'll go 3 on this one. And we'll just kind of orbit this station, this little thing, until these guns are down. Go 3 there, 3 on that one. And then I think the rest of this will spawn over here where we were originally. Then we'll go back over there and start orbiting that again. That's done. You want to get those down pretty quick. We'll go ahead and manually fly over. I just use hold on Q and do it that way. Build the shield booster up, just kind of get everything kind of built back up a little bit. Like this tower, this lookout, go and set orbit on it. And then at this point, I'm just gonna, once I get in range, it's pretty good. And just go ahead and throw these launchers back on. But like I said at the beginning of the video, this series is gonna essentially be long form. It's gonna be a longer form video, and it's gonna, for the most part, be unedited, so you can kind of just see real time kind of play when it comes, as far as like playing solo and just kind of doing the PvE thing by yourself. I think that gives people a lot better perspective on what's possible, and you'll see a lot of like really high ISK return when I start doing higher end, the like 7 of 10 combat anoms. Those are really going to be where you're going to see a lot of ISK coming in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn off this prop mod. Actually, I'm going to keep the prop mod on. The tank on the Tengu is essentially like half like SIG and then half booster. I don't need the shield booster anymore, and what I'm doing is I'm just waiting for those reloads to go through, because we're not really in a whole lot of danger. I want to double up on these frigates though, because some of these, like I said, can web and disrupt. We definitely don't want to be in a situation where we're like disrupted and we got newts coming in and they get lucky and they kind of just warp right on top of us, because where this anomaly is located right now is right at 0. So if they pick the right rally point, they're going to land right on top of me essentially. So as these cruisers go down, we're just going to kind of keep going. That's pretty much it. I don't loot. I do not salvage. I basically just go in and destroy everything, clear the site. I have in the past salvaged things and took the time to loot everything, but for the most part, it's just the time it takes to do it isn't necessarily worth it, in my opinion. It's another purpose. There's another thing you could do with an alt actually, is if you like kind of like juggling all of that, you can have an alt that comes in behind you with like a mobile tracker unit and cleans up your sites, so you can just kind of keep moving. As you see here, Enforcer's done. Got a little bit going on the other ones. And that's kind of like a completionist thing. I did finish my SOE, my Sisters of Eve epic arc on this character today, which I do that every 90 days. And that's just been focusing on building up the Caldari state stuff. I'm going to go and let just these 3 launchers kind of like chill here. And there's some situations where, like right now, where I don't need to necessarily go fast. I had that booster on a little bit longer than I should have, and by just kind of chilling, I save a little bit of rounds, and also I can kind of build my my cap back up. I am going to take all go 5 on this frigate though, just because I want to get it down. I think it's mainly ports that have the warp disruption and the webbing. We'll go and put 6 on. Next wave, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead, and since we're like in between waves, I'm going to go ahead and reload. That way I don't like I don't like half of my guns or half of my launchers reloading while the half are like like pretty much all of them kind of going at the same time. Load 2, 2, and then 2. And that's kind of how I look at it too. Is like if I have 3 targets, I put 2 on each. If I have 6 targets and they're all below battleship, then I'll go 1 each, and then kind of just evenly distribute the launchers as I see fit. It allows me not to overshoot too much. So here we'll have 5 targets. We don't need to do a reload. I'll essentially just throw 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll see. Let's see here. We'll do this battle cruiser here. We'll throw an additional on that, because I think it's going to be the one that's one of the last ones that goes down. If you try to orbit like one of the ships, every time you kill a ship, it's going to kill the orbit, right? Which is why I orbit this little structure here, because I can essentially keep the same orbit pattern the entire time, which keeps my consistent like signature tanking active. Let's go to the launcher here, and then as far as like reassigning, I just kind of look at like what targets progressed more, or which target is not as progressed, and I'll double up and everything. And then now we're down to 2 targets, which go 3 and 3. But hopefully you guys will enjoy this series. We're going to be doing a lot of things in this series, not just ratting. Do exploration, mining, moon mining, do some Mercoxis, do some covert, ninja mining, probably some like jump freighter, just some like Sino travel logistics, pretty much anything you can think of, PI. Pretty much no holds barred. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to save this battleship for last, because I'm going to go 6 on. And the other two, these battle cruisers, I'm going to go 3 and 3. And then once they're dead, actually once they're dead, I'm probably going to do a reload. Go and boost up. This Tengu usually doesn't, on these rally points, usually doesn't drop, too far past 70. But you kind of have to keep in mind. Like, I'm really bad about, like, keeping the booster on even after I'm 100%. Which, some of you don't want to overboost. You're just wasting cap that way. We'll go and cut that out. Reload's almost done. We'll go and group these just for simplicity's sake. And we'll just go alpha on this battleship. The Tengu is also one of those ships that if the area is really active with fleets and stuff like that of newts, I'll rat in it just because it's a lot easier to get off grid than a Bastion, Golem or whatever. But if it's pretty quiet in the area, the Golem is just gonna be hands down the best ISK per hour. Turn this prop mod off, turn the hardener off. I'm just basically gonna warp to my safe point. And that is done. Gotta reload all that stuff. Not super complicated. I enjoy it. I think what we'll do is I'll probably fly a buzzard out here in the next couple days and probably do my exploration with that so that you can kind of see that a little bit better. As far as these like items to redeem, I usually just redeem them in Jita. Because if they're skins, they're going to automatically apply to you. If they're ISK from the career plan, it's going to give it to you. And then whenever I make it back to Jita, I just kind of like sell it all and everything. But that's gonna be it for this video. We'll do the next episode, since we kind of like spent a little bit of time like kind of doing introductions in this video. The next episode we'll basically just jump right into a task and do it for quite a while, and so you can kind of just see a little bit more, and hopefully I can kind of share some I don't know, some knowledge or whatever based on my experiences with Eve, and hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed the content, and we'll see you guys next time.